So now I talk about being you. We have these 7 principles. Today we're looking at number 2. We promise to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Justice, equity, and compassion points us towards something beyond inherent worth and dignity, which is our first principle. Compassion is something that we can easily act on individually. We can demonstrate openness, give people respect, treat people with kindness on our own. But we need one another to achieve equity and justice. Justice, equity, and compassion are all part of the same package. Just as the second principle overlaps with the first, it is also related to the 7th principle, the interdependent web of all existence. And this was written by Reverend Emily Gage, who is with the Unity Temple in Chicago. The opening words are in the hymn book, number 442. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit, seeking rest.
Who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid.
We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart.
Who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous.
We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith.
Who come to probe and explore, who come to learn.
We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming.
Who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family.
Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey.
We bid you welcome.
And this was written by a Unitarian Universalist minister named Richard Gilbert. The opening hymn, 131, Love Will Guide Us. Now it's time to hear our speaker. I have known Jim for almost 34 years. For 40 years, he was a champion for the children and families of Ryves neighborhood. He recently retired as program director of Ryves Youth Center. He started as a volunteer, and at some point, he became the man in charge. This doesn't happen very often, but it can. For 40 years, he has helped the children of Ryves realize and reach their potential. Unitarian Universalists don't have saints, but if they did, I would certainly nominate Jim Edwards as a saint?
Well, I'm not a saint, I'll tell you that. Julie asked me to come and speak of my life and what got me to direct Ryves, and then now direct Wabash Valley Habitat, and so I'll try and do that. You know, I've always been involved with organizations. When I was young, I was very shy. I wouldn't have thought of standing up in front of you. You know, I just didn't think I had it in me. And, you know, before I was 10 years old, my parents moved around a lot. My father was a claims adjuster, and we just moved from here to there. My grandparents lived in Terre Haute. In fact, one set of grandparents lived at 14th and 2nd Avenue, and actually that's the center of the Ryves neighborhood. And I ended up directing Ryves, which was just a couple blocks away from that house. When I was younger, they would move in and out of Terre Haute, so I went to Benjamin Franklin School for my kindergarten year. I went again as a 6th grader, because back then they had 6th grade in elementary. And then ended up going to McLean Junior High School, then Garfield, and ended up at North when they opened that. So, you know, I've been around Terre Haute most of my life, and I consider Terre Haute to be my home. Now, I live out in the country out past West Terre Haute now, and, you know, it's all the Terre Haute area, Vigo County. So, when I was younger, you know, my father would get involved with activities with me and my younger brother, and we were in Boy Scouts and we were in Civil Air Patrol. And when I turned 18, you know, it was just a natural transition to become adult leader for both of those organizations. And then I had a myriad of jobs of all sorts of things. I was an elevator operator at the Terre Haute House, and I was a gas station attendant and manager, and all sorts of different things. And when I was 21, I became a police officer at Indiana State University. And that didn't stop my volunteering. I was volunteering for what was then called Lifeline. It was a crisis hotline. And I found when I was 18, I started volunteering there. And I found that nonprofits don't have a lot of money. And so if you find someone that has time and interest, you use them. So they did. And so I found, you know, myself learning as much as I could, you know, with the crisis hotline, which really helped me learn an awful lot about the human condition. Because, you know, before that, you know, I had a lot more prejudices. I had well, this is the way life should be, and I was young, and I didn't know what I was talking about. And so I started volunteering there because this little voice, my brother first hooked me up and signed me up, and I said, no, I don't want to do it. And I walked into, there was a church there at 7th and Larry Bird Avenue, and I walked upstairs where their offices were, and it was just an old place, and there was a blood stain on the carpet where someone had come up and tried to kill themselves. And this was totally foreign to anything I knew anything about. But there was this little voice in my head that said, this is something you need to get involved with. So I did. And I started spending more and more time with them. And as I did, I helped with other organizations And I was, like I said, when I was 21, I was a police officer at ISU, and 6 years into that job, a group of nonprofit people who knew me because I had done a lot of volunteer work came to me and said, "Jim, we want you to attend a meeting. We're starting a youth center." And at the time, I lived a block away from Ryves. And they said, "We'd like you to be involved and attend the meeting." Being the good steward of the community that I was, I said, "No, I'm too busy. I don't have time for this. I've got a full-time job. I'm doing other things. Good luck." They came back. Again, I said, "No, I don't have time." They came back. I said, "Look, I'll show up, but I'm not going to say anything. I'll just show up and lend support. I've got a big mouth." The next thing I knew, I was talking and telling them my opinions. I remember what hooked me, though, and it was a dirty old hole in the ground back then, I'll tell you that. But what hooked me was that one of the people said, "Well, we've had a lot of good remarks and support to start this youth center. We've had a few that aren't so good. They say that we're going to have kids that have head lice and things like that, but we know that's not true." Excuse me. If you don't help the children that have head lice, you're not helping the children that need the help the most. So they said, "Jim needs to be on a committee." Now, what's a committee to you? Back then, a committee to me was once a month for an hour. I said, "I can be on a committee. That's okay." It was 2 and 3 times a week, 2 and 3 hours at a time. And at that time, we decided to go under Catholic Charities because it was a Catholic building, and Catholic Charities was running that building, and the insurance would be covered by them, and we could apply for funding through United Way, because back then, if you were a new agency, you had to wait for a year. And so we decided to go under Catholic Charities, and John Entling, I'll call him John Entling Sr. because it's not, they had different middle names, but he was there, and he says, "Well, you can name the youth center anything you want, but the building is Ryves Hall, and we've got a sign outside that says that." I said, "Well, just call it Ryves Hall Youth Center. It doesn't matter. What matters is the service." And so we named it Ryves Hall Youth Center. And later in that summer, John says, "Well, Jim, would you be the director?" Being the good steward of the community. I said, "No, I don't want to be the director. I'm not Catholic." He said, "That doesn't matter." I said, "No, I've got a job. I've got a profession. I'm a police officer." He says, "Oh, would you be part-time director just till we find someone?" I said, "Just till we find someone, then I'm out of here." He says, "Well, how much money do you want?" I was single. I didn't really need money. I had a job. I said, "I don't want money. I just want, when we start making money, then I'll take money. But until then, let's just be a volunteer." Now, in my mind, as a volunteer, I could walk out any time. If I start getting money, then it's more solid. So we started, and back in those early days, we had yard sales. Like you're not making as much as yours, but we would have yard sales. I would take the kids out on the streets, and we would have cans and stop like they do with some of the national organizations and the Thanksgiving and Christmas fund drives, and we would do anything we can. And back then, the agreement with John was we pay half of the utilities of the building and all of our programming needs. So we did that. After 8 years of doing both jobs, I thought, I heard that little voice again. It says, you really need to choose. There's other terms that you could, or sayings, but really, I had to choose my path. I had to choose, which road I was going to travel. And so, in 1990, I chose that path to go full-time with Ryves Youth Center, and we started getting grants, and we started, before we'd got a few grants and some minimal funding, but we started doing a lot more, and that gave me a lot more time to focus on helping children and their families. And I found there's just a lot of children in need in Terre Haute. And that's not unlike any other city, but I happen to live here, and I happen to want to make a change here. So I started helping children, and I helped their families, and one year led to another year, and I was really blessed. I met my wife when she came to volunteer at Ryves, and she, if you get to know her, she has a big mouth like I do. And so I was standing in the social work department, because I knew the professor, and she asked me to come and speak and get volunteers, and Diana challenged what I said. And I said, well, if you want to prove me wrong, you have to come and volunteer. And she did. And, after a few months, the kids came to me and they said, Jim, we really like Diana. I said, yeah, I like her too. She's a good volunteer. He says, oh no, we really like her, and you need to go ask her out. So I said, okay. So we started dating. It wasn't too long before the kids came and says, Jim, we like Diana. I said, I do too. They said, no, we really like Diana. You need to ask her to marry you. So on August 11th, 1984, we held our wedding in the middle of Collett Park so that all the kids could come and attend. And several of the girls, the teenage girls, showed up and helped Diana get ready for the wedding. So, those are good, fond memories. And we still keep in touch with many of those children. Now they have children of their own. Some of them have grandchildren of their own. So what I found is that most people don't listen to their small voice in their head. Now, I tend to believe that's God speaking to me. Other people think it's intuition or, education or motivation or whatever you call it. It doesn't matter. It matters that whatever your path is, that you choose that path wisely and listen to that small voice. It's important. It's important to be able to help our fellow man, woman, and child. And so I've been doing that all my life, and I've been blessed by doing that. I was blessed with a wife, a family, and I'm blessed every time I see a child that runs up to me, and I still, although I'm not at Ryves, I still mentor a young boy there, and I'm in the Optimist Club that meets there, and whenever I stop in there, kids will stop what they're doing and run up and give me a big hug. And adults come up. I remember when I was a kid. I remember, and whether it was them being disciplined or them being loved, I always told them I loved them. And it's a common joke is when a child is being disciplined, I'd say, well, I love you, but, and then we would go into what had to take place, and we would process that before we discipline them. Recently, Diana retired. She was a therapist at Hamilton Center, And she's had a long, illustrious life as a therapist. She started at Gibraltar and then went to Human Resources Center and then Recovery Associates, and ended up her career at Hamilton Center and did several different jobs with them. But she retired the last of November, and at that time, people said, well, when are you going to retire, Jim? And I'm going, well, I don't know. Hadn't thought about it a lot. I thought, well, I don't know. The way life is nowadays with Medicare and the Medicare Part D and stuff, there's that. They don't have a gap anymore. Oh, no. Or the donut, it's now called the gap. Same thing. And you still have to pay a lot of money if you're on any medication. So I said, well, before I do anything, we have to see what happens with her, and then we'll go from there. So I'm just thinking I'm going to end up working at Ryves until I retire. And I'm thinking, I don't know when that will be. But I know that little voice had been talking to me for some time, that there was still more I could do that I couldn't do at Ryves. Catholic Charities is now growing into this big agency that has a development department, and they do the social media, and they do the grant writing, and they, all that stuff. And I kind of enjoyed some of that stuff. And so then, all of a sudden, Chuck Norman walks into my office. And I've known Chuck forever because he was a friend of John Ettling's. I even took some classes with Chuck. That tells you how old he is. Anyway, he came in and he says, Jim, and I knew he liked Wabash Valley Habitat for Humanity. I've known that for years. We've talked about the house builds that Indiana State University had done, and some of the other things. And he said, I just became the president of the board of Habitat. Would you be on the board? Being the good steward of the community I am, I said, no, I can't do that. It's ethical dilemma for me, because I can't go and ask for money and help for Habitat and also ask for money and help for Ryves. I said, I personally just can't do that. I said, I'll be glad to help in any way I can, but I just can't be on the board. So, they had a lot of changes. The pandemic hit Habitat terribly. It hit Ryves terribly too. For a year, we were not open. We did not serve children for a year. Every day, Pam and I and all the other staff got together and handed out food for lunch at the door. So people would come up and kids would come up, and whoever needed food got fed, but it wasn't the same. It just wasn't. And so we were still serving, we were still helping, but in a different capacity. So I started helping Chuck with some of the nonprofit things I knew about, and then some things I didn't know about. Like one day, I got Dan Snyder, who used to be my assistant, who knows a lot about construction and a lot about things like that. And we got with Chuck and moved a bobcat off of a property that was just getting ready to be handed over to a family. I've never turned on a bobcat before, but now I know more about it. And thank God for the neighbor next door, because he even knew more than Dan did, and we got it. But then it was a fun day. But all through that, and all through helping Chuck, I had that same small voice in the back of my head saying, hey, you can help them. So it came clear very soon that I knew when I wanted to retire. I wanted to retire from Ryves, and I gave them a month's notice because I thought it was important that the transition happened in a peaceful, nice way, that children would have time and the volunteers and the families would have time to understand what was going on. Because too often our children have been let down. And so I didn't want to be that person. Now if, like in the preschool, it was different because, there was summer breaks and kids were graduating and things. But at Ryves, we're open all the time. And I wanted to make sure that they knew, first of all, that I loved them. Second of all, that I wasn't leaving. My office at Habitat is about 10 blocks away from the youth center, and that I could be called anytime. Just Saturday night, I got a message on Facebook from a little 8-year-old girl, and she wanted to show me her artwork and her story, and she's working on coding. She took our coding camp that was offered through Rose Hallman. They came and taught coding to several of our kids a year ago. So, I'm still involved, and if you want to work with children, that is the best place I can think of to suggest that you go. There's a definite need for mentors. There's a definite need for general supervision, basketball coaches, you name it, tutors, whatever. It's just a great need. Now, if youth are not your calling, if that's not your little voice talking about youth, Wabash Valley Habitat for Humanity desperately needs volunteers. We've got a Restore, and that's our nonprofit enterprise that provides a great place for many people to go and purchase items. And so we're always looking for things to be donated to the Restore. And we are also looking for patrons to go buy things from the Restore. And some things that are donated there are brand new. We've got brand new LED lights there, light bulbs. So if you need light bulbs, stop there, because it's a program through Duke Energy, and we get them brand new, and we're limited on how much we can pay or how much we can charge for them. And so it's a great price for you and a great way, 100% profit for us. We have recycled paint, and I guess I'm going to have to buy and order another load of paint, because I'm getting a lot of people telling me that the paint prices are good. They're $18 a gallon, and so we have that. But I had one family come and say, yeah, my whole living room set I bought from the Restore. So it's just a small place. It used to be a firehouse, but stop in there and look. I need someone just to answer the phone for me at the Habitat office. We need people to help teach classes. We teach classes in financial literacy. We teach classes in home ownership. There's a lot of things that people just don't understand. What you have to understand is the people that come in and get a Habitat house, they're qualified through a family selection committee. And they, are not living in abject poverty. They're not homeless, but they're living in not the best apartments, or they may be doubled up. But what it is they're making a living wage. You'll hear United Way talk about ALICE people, asset limited, income constrained, and I forget what E stands for, but it's basically people that are working every day and still not being able to afford the American dream. Wouldn't it be nice? For me, I always wanted to own a home. I do own a home. The people that we serve could never get a home, or live in a nicer apartment because they're expensive. Habitat, when they get a key, those families pay for that home. First of all, the down payment is through sweat equity and taking classes. Even their children, if they get good grades, will be counted on that sweat equity. And then, when they get the keys, their mortgage is 0%. So when you hear the news, oh, the interest rates are going up, oh, be careful. Not for our families. Our families have a stable payment and know exactly how much they're going to have to pay for the rest of that mortgage. And no balloon payments. They have an escrow payment that'll cover taxes and the insurance so that they don't have to worry about that. And, every now and then they'll call us and ask us for extra help. I've got to replace a baseboard in one of the family's homes that they accidentally damaged. And a couple of weeks ago, we worked on a ceiling fan of a woman. And so, we also look at rehabbing, places in the city. We're right now looking at trying to focus on that Ryves neighborhood. And if you've driven, when I was young, Tippecanoe, in 23rd and Tippecanoe, was known as part of the bad neighborhood. Drive through there sometime. There are beautiful homes there. People keep their lawns mowed. You'll see kids playing out in the yard or whatever. It's not a bad neighborhood. So we want the avenues and that area to be viewed as a good place to live. We want to strengthen neighborhoods like United Way says. And I had a meeting with Richard Payunk this last week about, collaborating with United Way. So we need donations, we need manual labor, we need volunteers, we need all sorts of different things. And if nothing else, we need prayers, which probably should be the first thing in the way. And we also need you to spread the word. We are here, and we're helping people. The pandemic, I won't say it's over, but I'll say that it's manageable now so that we're able to move forward and help more people. So I think that's been about 20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Closing hymn 354.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own, and we of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together, and with the grace of age we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is the answer. Our lives are full of wonder, and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on and on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow, we have the gift to believe that peace within our living is the answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is the answer.
Closing words are, the blessing of truth be upon us, the power of love direct us and sustain us, and may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again.
May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore.
Go in peace. Know that you are loved and that your life is sacred. Value statement. We value a sense of community, religious tolerance, cooperation, diversity, active social justice, and good works. Mission statement. We exist to provide a community for persons of diverse, liberal, religious beliefs, and to support one another in our individual, spiritual, and ethical growth.